Hey everybody, it's Mr. Carr again. Today we're going to be finishing up Unit 9 with 9D, solve quadratics using the quadratic formula. So what's nice about this is it's used for any single quadratic, as long as it's in is in standard form. Okay, in standard form and also still equal to 0. So here's the quadratic formula right here. Quadratic formula, the solutions of a quadratic that is ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. So just like before, must equal 0. Okay, and a is not equal to 0. This is my quadratic formula. So a, b, and c gets plugged into this. The opposite of b, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all over 2a. Okay, the other nice thing about this one is it works for any quadratic. It also works if we are dealing with some irrational zeros, because not everything is factorable. So like we solve by factoring, that's probably one of the quickest methods, but it's only good if they are nice whole numbers or even easy fractions. Sometimes we don't get that. So that's where quadratic formula comes into play. So use quadratic formula to solve these. So we're going to start with adding 20 to make it equal to 0. So x squared minus 12x plus 20 equals 0. So a is a 1, b is negative 12, and c is 20. So x is equal to the opposite of b, so that's going to be opposite of a negative 12, plus or minus negative 12 squared minus 4 times 1 times 20, all over 2 times a. From here, if I'm doing this by hand, I'm just going to go through step by step. I forgot a parentheses there. I'm going to do step by step, do my order of operations. I'm going to treat this like a grouping symbol. Okay, so everything inside the radical gets taken care of first, then I can work my way out. If I am confident with putting this into a calculator, you can put this all in as one step. The key is that you have to do it twice because this is plus or minus. So you're going to do 2 operations. Okay, just like when we did our square root property. There's 2 operations. We did a positive version and a negative version. So opposite of negative 12 is a positive 12. Negative 12 squared, this is negative 12 times a negative 12. That is a positive 144. So then negative 4 times 1 times 20. I like to think of it as 3 numbers. Negative, positive, positive. In the end, I'm going to have a negative number. 4 times 1 times 20 is going to give me 80. So that'll be a negative 80 here. Okay, and all over 2. I'm not going to do anything with fractions yet. So don't deal with this 2 until the very end. Okay, this all needs to be simplified before I can do anything with dividing by 2. All right, so 12 plus or minus, that should be 64. All over 2 still. Square root of 64, thankfully, that is a nice, neat number. That is just 8. So x is equal to 12 plus or minus 8 divided by 2. Now, this is where I'm going to get my 2 answers from. This splits off into 2 possibilities. 12 plus 8 divided by 2, or 12 minus 8 divided by 2. So 12 plus 8 is going to give me 20 divided by 2, which is going to give me 10. 12 minus 8 is 4 divided by 2, which is 2. Those are my 2 answers, 10 and 2. All right, that's it. Again, quadratic formula, set it equal to 0. Identify your a, b, and c terms. Then they get plugged into the formula. So opposite of b, b squared, 4 times a times c. I do want to point out this, because it's b squared, make sure if you put this in the calculator, you're doing it properly. That should be a negative 12 times a negative 12. So I do that by doing parentheses to the second power. That makes sure it becomes out as a positive 144. Your b squared term will always be positive here. Okay, it will never be a negative. So if you got a negative 144, double check your calculator, put the parentheses around it. Okay, all right, number 2, same thing. I want this equal to 0, so we'll subtract 7 to both sides. So x squared minus 6x minus 7 equal to 0. A is 1 again, b is negative 6, c is negative 7. So x is equal to the opposite of b, plus or minus, got b squared minus 4 times a times c. all over 2 times a. Whoops, did extra one there. All right, so I can do the opposite of -6 is a +6. -6 squared is a +36. -4, so this, again, this is why I like to think of it as 3 numbers multiplied together. Negative, positive, negative. I should have a positive number in the end. So it's a -4 times a +1 times a -7 is going to give me a +28 all over 2. All right, so x is equal to 6 plus or minus be 36. That's 50, 60, oh, 64 again. Okay. How about that? So that means this will turn into x is equal to 6 plus or minus 8 over 2. Same as before, I'm going to split it up into 2 options. X equals 6 plus 8 divided by 2, or x equals 6 minus 8 divided by 2. So I have 14 divided by 2 for 7. And then for the second option, I have -2 divided by 2 for -1. All right, that's it. All right, okay. So I think on this one, we might get some, we might get a couple of answers that are not going to work out nice and neat like these last 2 did. But we're still going to work through just like we have already. Okay, first step, we'll subtract 20 to both sides. So 2x squared plus 9x minus 20 equals 0. Okay, so 2, 9, and 20, that's A, B, and C. So x equals the opposite of b plus or minus b squared minus 4 times a times c, all over 2 times a. Okay, so x equals -9 plus or minus 9 squared is an 81. Then I have a -4 times a +2 times a -20. Okay, so we got, put that in my calculator real fast. -4 times 2 times -20 comes out as a +160. Okay, and that's all over 2 times 2 is a 4 now. So that number changed a little bit. Okay, so -9 plus or minus, we got 81 plus 160. Give me 241. Okay, give me 1 second here. All right, so once we have this set up in this spot, okay, everything as simplified as possible. Square root of 241 does not come out evenly. So that means I'm actually going to get a decimal number here. So I'll split it off this way. We'll start with this version. -9 plus the square root of 241, all divided by 4. Again, put this in your calculator properly, but the bottom line is this needs to happen before dividing by 4. So if I plug in my calculator, I get an approximate value of 1.63. And we'll go right there. It was 1.63. The other option is if I take x, well, x is going to equal to a -9 minus, separate that a little bit, minus the square root of 241 all over 4. Okay, so if I have this already in my calculator, I just need to go back and change that positive to a negative number. So that'll be minus. Okay, it's being a little weird, but I think it's okay. So x is going to be approximately equal to a -6.13. That's how I get my 2 answers here. All right. Number 4 is already set up equal to 0. So A, B, and C are right there for us. So x is going to equal to the opposite of B. So opposite of 5 plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C, all over 2 times A. So -5 plus or minus, we got the square root. 5 squared is going to be 25. 4 times 3 times, so -4 times 3 times 12. That's a negative overall. And then 4 times 3 times 12 is going to give me a 144. So from here, I'm going to have -144. Can't think for a second. 20, so -116, if I'm correct. I think I'm correct. Let me double check my calculator fast. 25 minus 144, negative, oh, I'm sorry, 119. Okay, negative 119, all over 6. And here's the thing, I am actually done because if you do this in your calculator, not going to work. Okay, if we take the square root of a negative number, that's impossible. So anytime I see this as part of my quadratic formula, my answer is no solution. That's it. Okay, so this is everything for solving quadratics, these 4 possibilities. Okay, the first one we talked about, if you remember, was solving by graphing. Okay, after that, we did square roots. This only works with quadratics and no b term. So it's just an x squared or x plus something squared in parentheses. We also did solve by factoring. This is only if quadratics have factors. Not every single quadratic is factorable. Some of them are not. So that's where this gets a little weakness for it. And 4 can also work for all quadratics. It doesn't matter. Okay, as long as it's in standard form. And again, the key about pretty much all of these, except for number 2 there, equal to 0. Okay, so make sure, except for number 2, equals 0 besides number 2. Okay, that one might not equal 0, might equal something different. But everything else, 1, 3, and 4, got to be equal to 0 to make it work. Okay, and that's it for all of our solving. That's all the possibilities that you'll work with. We'll wrap that up for Unit 9, and that's it. Take care, everybody.